India Today, 23rd of March 2024, 4 Chinese vessels are in the Indian Ocean. Will Colombo once more serve as a host for espionage ships? As large numbers of Chinese ships operating in the Indian Ocean and neighboring countries fall prey to China's encirclement of India, the Chinese war in the region is intensifying. 2 Chinese surveillance vessels are reportedly cruising in India's backyard as the country prepares to conduct missile tests. This raises suspicions regarding their intentions and final destinations. Sri Lanka recently disclosed that it had modified its prior position regarding research vessels to permit their replenishment. In light of the request made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the President of Sri Lanka to take India's security concerns into account, it will be fascinating to see whether the Chinese surveillance vessels will make a stopover in Colombo. Recently, Sri Lanka also granted permission for a German research vessel to replenish at the port of Colombo. The action provoked disapproval from China, underscoring Colombo's bewildered position after the nation denied Beijing's petition to berth a research vessel, Xiangyonghong 03. According to open-source maritime monitoring data, at least 4 Chinese research vessels are observed meandering through the Indian Ocean. The OSINT Group of India Today monitored the covert vessel's whereabouts before the nation's planned missile launch exercises in the Bay of Bengal. In the past, India cancelled a Notice to Air Missions, NOTAM, informing the Bay of Bengal of discontinuing a missile test scheduled for March 13. The NOTAM delineates a region of 3,550 kilometers, which has prompted specialists to hypothesize that the exercise may have been conducted using ballistic missiles launched from K-4 submarines. Despite the lack of official confirmation regarding the reason for the missile test's postponement, conjecture has arisen that covert reconnaissance vessels are attempting to observe India's missile testing activities. Following this, 2 additional NOTAMs were published, about aviation exercises that took place between April 3 and 4, and March 26 to 28, respectively, within a range of 380 km and 1,680 km near the coasts of Abdul Kalam Island and Bhuvaneshwar. Vessels affiliated with the People's Liberation Army have gained notoriety for intercepting missile tests conducted at the Integrated Test Range at Abdul Kalam Island, where they attempt to associate coordinates with Chinese surveillance satellites by picking up acoustic signatures of submarines. According to maritime data, Yuanhong 03, last observed near Jakarta Island in Indonesia on March 15, embarked on its voyage from Kinmen Island. Xiangyonghong 03 was previously implicated in surveilling India's defense operations during the nation's Agni 5 missile test launch, which utilized multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle technology. Following Sri Lanka's denial of authorization for a replenishment halt, the ship was granted clearance for an operational turnaround by the Maldives, which is governed by a new pro-China administration. Xiangyonghong 01 maintains a consistent presence in the Indian Ocean vicinity, specifically on the coast of Sri Lanka. Along the eastern coast of India, the vessel approached Vishakhapatnam at a time when India had declared a flight restriction zone over the Bay of Bengal. The NOTAM for the missile tests was, therefore, cancelled. Widespread speculation exists that Yuanhong 03 and Xiangyonghong 01 will come to Colombo following Sri Lanka's Wednesday lifting of its moratorium on research vessels. Nonetheless, no official confirmation has been made regarding this at this time. Open sea is the designated destination, according to maritime data. In light of the forthcoming NOTAM slated for March 26 and April 3, it would be intriguing to observe whether the vessels indeed make an operational turnaround at Colombo before potentially approaching the eastern board in preparation for the missile launch. Hydrography and hydrological surveys are among the stated objectives of these vessels, which are intended to aid future PLA submarine operations in the Indian Ocean region. Nevertheless, the potential purpose of Chinese surveillance vessels stationed off the eastern coast of India is to observe and record missile drills carried out at the Balasore test range. Furthermore, intelligence collecting regarding the signatures of Indian nuclear ballistic missile submarines stationed in the vicinity of Visakhapatnam could be a responsibility of these vessels. According to maritime security analyst Pooja Bhatt of Delhi, the standard operating procedure for Sri Lanka's interaction with research vessels is currently being developed. The Sri Lankan SOP addresses protocols for foreign research vessels predominantly. In general, nations do not reject requests for resupply from foreign vessels. It is a matter of diplomatic ambiguity when a research vessel attempts to resupply. She informed India Today that Sri Lanka authorized the German research ship's resupply by these customary practices. Of course, with a new NOTAM of 380 kilometers, there is a high probability that another surface-to-air missile test within the range will occur in the Bay of Bengal region in the coming days. She stated, We closely monitor the Chinese ships' duration of presence in the area. India has consistently observed Chinese research vessels, also known as spy ships, near its littoral since 2019, which has coincided with India's missile testing activities. It was previously hypothesized that several vessels, including the Yuan Wang 6, Yuan Wang 5, Xi'an 6, Xiaoyang Hong 03, and Xiaoyang Hong 01, were intently observing Indian defense operations. Presently operational in the Indian Ocean region are two additional Chinese research vessels, Diyanghao and Xiaoyang Hong 03, outfitted with cutting-edge research technology. 4 reasons Sri Lanka allows foreign research ships to load. Foreign Ministry spokesman Niluka Kajurugama quoted the Sri Lankan news website Economy Next, stating, "The ban on foreign ships is for research purposes, not replenishment." In January, Sri Lanka imposed a 1-year prohibition on Chinese vessels from accessing its waters. The determination in question was plausibly impacted by a petition presented by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to President Ranil Wickremesinghe, imploring him to consider India's security concerns, a subject of discussion during their July 2023 summit. The declaration of the 1-year prohibition by the Sri Lankan government was in response to concerns both India and the United States raised regarding interactions between Sri Lanka and Chinese vessels in its maritime domains. China is presently the most substantial investor in Sri Lanka, contributing approximately $15 billion in funding and investment. Recently, the proposal of the state-owned Chinese oil behemoth Sinopec to construct a $4.5 billion refinery in the southern port of Hambantota was approved by Sri Lanka. This is the most significant investment Sri Lanka has received since the economic crisis of 2022. The Chinese research vessel Xi'an 6 arrived in Sri Lanka in October 2023. It reached the Colombo port for geophysical scientific research in collaboration with the National Aquatic Resources Research and Development Agency of Sri Lanka, as described by Beijing. Before this, in August 2022, the Chinese Navy vessel Yuan Wang 5 refueled at Hambantota in the southern region of Sri Lanka. India strongly objected to both occurrences, which subsequently generated security concerns regarding the developments in the Indian Ocean. New Delhi expressed concerns about the potential exploitation of the surveillance systems installed on the Chinese vessels to collect intelligence on Indian defense installations. Sri Lanka's earlier this month authorization of a German research vessel prompted the Chinese embassy in Colombo to lodge a vehement protest. Given the geopolitical tensions, it will be fascinating to observe whether or not the Chinese surveillance vessel makes a stopover in Colombo. Because of its strategic significance in the Indo-Pacific region, the Bay of Bengal is becoming a center for geopolitical maneuvering. Sohini Nayak, a foreign policy analyst, told India Today that the passage of Chinese vessel Xiaoyang Hong 01 through these waters to the Sri Lankan exclusive economic zone, despite recent prohibitions, demonstrates a shift. She elaborated, "While India should not openly adopt a stance on such matters, we must recognize the existence of China's Look South policy and maintain a resolute awareness of its changing characteristics through a strategy of hedging and enhancing our neighborhood diplomacy while maintaining our national interests in the foreground."